You're listening to the Back Porch Talk podcast. Danny and Jason had many discussions and debates on the back porch while making pivotal investment moves with assets. That's right, with trading cards. They welcome you to the back porch and right into those discussions about current sports news with a fresh and unique twist. So come on and join us. Welcome to the Back Porch Talk podcast. I'm your coach, Jason.
Your coach, Danny.
Fans, we got a full show for you today. First, right into the NFL. The teams are starting to settle down here. I think we're starting to figure out who's who in the NFL. Who's who in the NFL includes that of the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions, man, they find a way to win. And this is after Jared Goff throwing 5 interceptions in a game. You kidding me? But the Lions find a way to win against a good Houston Texans team who didn't score in the second half. So kudos to the Detroit Lions defense. I want to fast forward to the playoffs and where I can see in the conference championship game, the Detroit Lions and maybe the Eagles or maybe the Commanders or whomever else, man. I just say I think the Detroit Lions are going to go to the Super Bowl, man. And it's because of luck like this. 5 interceptions in the game, but you still win. Let alone, it's not at home, it's away in somebody else's building. Folks who know me, man, know I can't stand Minnesota. No, definitely know I can't stand Chicago. But I actually kind of, root for the Detroit Lions, man, for their fan base, for being just deprived of success over the decades. And I'm happy to see the Detroit Lions be successful, man. I am. Even against my Green Bay Packers, I am happy to see the Detroit Lions being successful. So that was a highlight to see in the NFL for this weekend, Danny. And just as I say, I can't stand the Bears. Well, they get buried by the lowly New England Patriots. 19-3. They got some issues going on in Chicagoland. We saw this coming. Mm-hmm. We saw this coming, man. Any rookie quarterback going to the Chicago Bears, man, you just best get ready. You may have a good first few games, but you best believe you're going to get ate up mm-hmm. the rest of the season. And this is no different. That other who's who is the Steelers and the Commanders, who faced off against each other, and where the Steelers win 28-27 in a very good game. And you got to give props to both teams. You got to give some props to Russell Wilson, man, who continues to impress, who continues to lead this team offensively. 14 for 28, only 195 yards, 3 touchdowns and a pick, but nonetheless, man, they pull out for win. And you got to be concerned with the deep ball by Russell Wilson if you're an opposing defense. And he continues to impress, man. He was left for dead in Denver, come to Steelers, and Justin Fields started the season. Mm-hmm. And you got to give Mike Tomlin a lot of credit for, changing heads here, changing quarterbacks. And in the middle of the season, mind you, right before the gauntlet of the NFC North division. So this is going to be interesting to see how this plays out for the Steelers. But going to the Washington Commanders, man, where Jaden Daniels, 17 for 34, 50%, 202 yards, no interceptions, no touchdowns either. But the Commanders continue to play hard, and they continue to compete. It's going to be interesting in the NFC East. I think the only teams to really worry about are the Eagles and the Commanders, and we'll see what happens there. Danny, just one other game here of note. Just as I say, I want to fast forward to the playoffs. I want to see the conference championship game. I want to see the conference championship game between the Ravens and the Chiefs in AFC. This is fast forward, man. Let's just cut it all. I don't want no injuries. I don't want to see the Ravens and Chiefs because the Ravens pulled it out against the Bengals on Thursday night, 35-34. But I want to see just how the Ravens, if they can get over the hump against the Chiefs.
Mm-hmm.
With the Chiefs pulled it out 16-14 against the Broncos off a blocked field goal that would have won it for the Broncos. And the Chiefs have made some moves, man. They got DeAndre Hopkins now. He's starting to kind of get a good feel, good rhythm to the system. And this is a different Chiefs in where they're going to be really relying upon their defense. Patrick Mahomes goes 28 for 42, 266 yards, one touchdown, no picks. They need some rushing help, I think. And they have some decent receiving, the receiving core. Against the Ravens, man, you best get your defense ready to stop Derrick Henry.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I want to see. Can this defense do that? Can this defense stop Lamar Jackson? Because you best believe Lamar Jackson not going to play like he did in last year's playoff game. So I'm anxious to see that game. Let's fast forward to that game, Danny. Eagles, Cowboys. Eagles prevail 34-6 at Dallas. Dallas got some issues. It's to be noted that Dak Prescott is out. Is going to be out for the season based upon season-ending surgery to repair his torn hamstring. So basically, the Cowboys season is over. And dare I say, I don't see the Cowboys renewing the head coaching contract of Mike McCarthy. So they're going to be in rebuild mode in Dallas. The other thing of note here, Jets Cardinals 31-6. The Jets just got blasted yet again. Aaron Rodgers only goes 22 for 35, 151 yards. This is atrocious. Devontae Adams, I feel bad for. Feel bad for him, man, because he could have gone anywhere else. He could have gone to the Steelers. Something is going on in New York for the New York Jets, or just for the Giants too. Something's got to change, but there's something to be noted there. I think there's going to be a whirlwind of changes for the New York Jets and for the Giants, for that matter. But didn't I see that blowout coming? What say you, Danny, about the NFL weekend?
Jay, just to hit on a couple games before I get to my shake my head Falcons. And I don't know if Aaron Rodgers, the way he looked yesterday, man, he may be just like, why am I even out here anymore? Because he looked old and slow, and they just couldn't get it going. And that was the team they should have beat, Arizona. Arizona now, don't get me wrong, Cardinals fans, Arizona is playing better. Their defense has stepped up actually in the last. It's actually been playing well all year, but over the last couple of weeks, just stepped up. And Kyler Murray actually had a good game yesterday. Getting to my boys, Atlanta falls to the New Orleans Saints 20-17. And I was talking to someone on Saturday where I said this is a trap game for Atlanta. Saints lose 7 in a row. They had a coaching change. We're on the road, divisional game. For whatever reason, it's our house of horrors. I actually mentioned it in our last podcast, previewing the game. And what do you know? We lost. And we had multiple shots to win. Kirk Cousins threw over 300 yards. Bijan had a heck of a game. 116 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. But Young Wei Koo, missed 3 field goals. And then we had, I don't know what was going on in that last drive. The clock management was terrible. He throws the ball in the middle of the field with no timeouts left. You got to get on the edges, man. I don't know, man. It was just a bad game overall for them. That's a game that could come back. I said this about Seattle when they lost Seattle. This is another one because they're 6-4 now. That this could put them outside the playoffs, depending on how this division goes. So luckily, Tampa Bay lost yesterday to San Francisco. Tampa Bay is at 4-5, but a lot of other teams, like we mentioned here, the Eagles won again. The Vikings had a close one with the Jaguars. I look at Detroit. The only way I see them losing is them being on the road. So that means either the Eagles or the Commanders are going to have to get that one spot to get Jared Goff go on the road. And that's the only way I see them losing because their offense is potent at home.
Mm-hmm.
And the Eagles have the receivers because Detroit's secondary is not the greatest. They can be thrown on.
Mm-hmm.
Houston, look at Houston. They were undermanned last night and they still were up 23. They didn't cash it. And that hurt them because they kicked what? Three field goals, four field goals. They missed one at the end. The 50-yarder, Firebar missed the 50-yarder. Because they would have actually, it would have been tied and it would have went to OT. But because he missed it right before Detroit made theirs. So all in all, man, it was an interesting weekend. Kind of some odd matchups. But now we look forward to next week. And I know Green Bay plays Chicago and Atlanta, we go to Denver. Denver almost beat Kansas City yesterday in Kansas City. So I don't even know what to expect from us on the road next week. So you never know a mile high, but we need Younghoe Koo to get the kicking back in order because if he's kicking like that, that's a problem.
And then running into the NBA, and where the main topic I want to talk about is the Milwaukee Bucks, man. Milwaukee Bucks are now 2-8. They faced off against the Boston Celtics last night, and where Boston Celtics beat the Milwaukee Bucks 113-107. 69 points by the Milwaukee Bucks in the first half. Thought that, they would, come out on top here. They had at one point a 17-point lead, an 11-point lead ultimately at halftime, but third quarter, man, it just all fell by the wayside, man, and don't know exactly what happened. And as these Bucks play, man, I've been, really just taking a look at the post-game news conferences, especially by Doc. And I also listen to Giannis, and I listen to Dame as well. Sometimes Brooks, sometimes Bobby. Bucks trying to figure out what in the hell is going on, man. And at this juncture, they should know what's going on. You had a full off season with Doc. Granted, yes, Giannis was busy. Olympics, getting married, but still, you had a full training camp. And when Milton comes back, Milton's not going to resolve the issues. He's not going to solve the issues. Maybe with scoring, but defensively, there's still a missing piece there. They hold on to the ball too long. The ball just doesn't move. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's more on Dame or if it's on Giannis or a combination of both. But out of this, I do like what I'm seeing out of Rollins. I like that he's athletic. He's a defensive presence on the wing. I like what I'm seeing out of Green, three-point threat. And I like what I'm seeing out of Jackson Jr. here, who is an energy bunny. And having those three young Bucks in there, I would have thought that would have really galvanized the team. Now if you play with your bench a little bit, you can do some things. The emergence of Gary Trent Jr. we're still waiting for that. And I think it's because he just doesn't know his role. And I think that is the confusing part that basically the Bucks team has. They just don't know each other's role in the offense, in the defense. But yesterday's game proved yet again the Drew effect.
Yep.
And I saw Drew just going after balls and just being a energizer bunny and just really going after things, man, and having that defensive presence. And he brings a team continuity. He's that glue. Mm-hmm. I don't think the Bucks have that right now. They don't have that glue guy. The longer this goes on, we don't know when Milton's coming back. I heard that I think Doc said he did 3-on-3s, possibly 4-on-4s. He still got, I'm thinking maybe another couple of weeks out, man.
Yep.
So that's going to be basically end of November, early December. That is before we even get Milton. I think it's to the point now in where And I posted this to the teams to our text thread, Danny. Are the Milwaukee Bucks going to win 25 games? On one side, I said that jokingly, but on the other side, I'm like, shoot, you got to pause and kind of think about it for a minute.
Mm-hmm.
Can they get 25 games? Because right now they only have two because they're in the second apron. Trading is going to be kind of hard
Mm-hmm.
to do. I mean, you're going to have to give up some salary to take on. I mean, I I'm going to study the second apron part a little bit more, quite frankly, because there's some limitations there. So let's say they're stuck with this team and this coaching staff. Let's just say that
Mm-hmm.
Middleton comes back. This is going to be interesting to see what happens around the trade deadline. Again, I need to study the second apron and
Mm-hmm.
ramifications of being in the second apron. But man, Bucks in trouble. What say you, Dan?
Jason, if there's one glimmer of hope here, is with them being 2-8, the third place team in the Eastern Conference is 5-5. So technically, they're only 3 games out of third place. Even
True
they've
enough.
had one of the worst
Touche.
starts for a team because the Eastern Conference is that bad starting off right now. Cleveland is the cream of the crop right now, being 11-0, 11-0. They're playing fantastic. They came back last night again and beat Brooklyn. Boston's 9-2, and then the Pacers are 5-5. If there's any time to get right, they have it. They have an opportunity now because they're not as bad as they've played. And that game yesterday, another one they should have won, they're not completely out of it. Now, if they're in the Western Conference, you start kind of batting your eyes a little bit because the Western Conference, 10th place is like 6-4. So
Mm-hmm.
versus in the Eastern Conference is very bottom heavy. Every game now is the focus on Giannis and what Giannis is saying about the team and
Mm-hmm.
not competing. I'm paraphrasing here.
Mm-hmm.
Where's the drive? Where's the competitive edge for the team? You look at it, he has a point, but I think when you brought up around roles and responsibilities,
Mm-hmm.
I know in our professions and what we do, that's very important because you don't know your role.
Mm-hmm.
You're going to be wandering aimlessly out there and
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
may not have a job or a gig. So in basketball, it's the same thing because spacing and where your spots are and just little things like that and assignments and just there's like that nonverbal communication is missing. And it's interesting because this team has been together forever. Dame is
Mm-hmm.
the new piece.
Now, granted, if you're on pick and roll action, you're on having two players play pick and roll,
Yep.
Dame and Giannis. So your other three is going to be kind of doing whatever. But see, that's where I'm thinking. I don't know, Danny. When we were playing basketball back in the day, it was all about movement.
All
We
day.
pick and roll, but it was still movement amongst the three.
Yep.
And whether it's cutting or whether it's getting in position to rebound the ball because somebody about to shoot it. So there was some kind of movement. There was something happening all the
Yep.
time with the five on the court, even with pick and roll action. So I just don't get it in where if there's pick and roll action between Dame and Giannis,
Uh-huh.
why the other three is just sitting there?
Is it something that Doc is there a miscommunication? Because
It's got to
Doc
be
was
something.
some's not adding up because Doc, even when Adrian Griffin was there, he was a special consultant behind Adrian Griffin. So something ain't adding up, man. I don't know what it is. For them to come out and play the way they are is baffling to me. They're professionals. A lot of these guys have been here a few years. And even if you have a new coach, you still kind of understand the tendencies,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
That's where I'm just not understanding. Something when Giannis keep talking about not competing, why?
Who is he calling out when he
That's my
says that,
point.
man?
That's what I'm
Who
saying.
is he
There's a lot of
calling out, man?
subliminals.
It's like I'm trying to figure out who in particular. Like, is it Bobby?
He's sending a subliminal about somebody.
Mm.
As I look at it now, Jay, we'll see kind of take, a current state, after Thanksgiving, kind of see where they're at. See if they can get some traction here with some of these teams and beat some of these. Because a lot of the teams you mentioned, they're all in front of them. So if they beat them, they can knock them down and
They can knock them down.
They can slowly move them up.
They can go up. It's just the young legs, and I'm just going to be really interested in seeing how that puts us together, because we can't get another coach. We can't have another coach on the payroll at this juncture. We are paying Adrian Griffith. We're paying Doc. I mean, we can't pay another coach. Just a quick note on Coach Prime and the Colorado Buffaloes, where they go to 7-2, beating Texas Tech Raiders 41-27, dodging all of the tortilla shells and water bottles and everything being thrown at them. But yeah, give kudos to Coach Prime for now, obviously being bowl eligible and coming from a 1-win season before he got there to a 2-win season, ultimately to a bowl game. So kudos to Coach Prime. I think he has to be a candidate for Coach of the Year. You also have to put IU's coach in there as well. But nonetheless, man, congratulations to Coach Prime.
Thank you for joining us at Back Porch Talk Podcast. You can also join us on Twitter by tweeting us at @back_podcast. For more information, you can go to our website, which is backporchtalkpodcast.com. You can also email us at backporchtalkpodcast@gmail.com. Again, thank you for joining us, and remember that there's enough hate in the world, so go ahead and spread a little love.